where the sun caresses 7 hills and the Tiber whispers ancient secrets, a city was born, destined to become the heart of the world. This was Rome, a place where myths intertwined with blood and human ambitions wove a tapestry of eternal glory. The story of its rise is not just a chronicle of events, but a saga of heroes, traitors, gods, and mortals who together built an empire that defied time, in the beginning. When the world was still young and the stars gazed upon the earth with curiosity, 2 infants appeared on the banks of the Tiber, Romulus and Remus, sons of the war god Mars. Legend tells that they were abandoned in a basket, left to the mercy of the river, but fate had other plans. A she-wolf, with eyes glowing like embers, nursed them, and a shepherd, Faustulus, raised them as his own. The brothers grew strong, their hearts ablaze with fire, but ambition divided them. On the Palatine Hill, Romulus slew Remus, and in 753 BCE, he proclaimed himself the first king of Rome. Was it a sin or a necessary sacrifice? The Romans believed their city was born of divine blessing, and even archaeologists, unearthing huts on the Palatine, confirm people lived here as early as the 10th century BC. Rome grew like a young oak in the shadow of mighty neighbors, Etruscans, Latins, Sabines. The legend of the rape of the Sabine women, when Romulus lured neighbors to a festival and abducted their women for his warriors, was more than a cunning ploy. It showed that Rome survived through conflict and alliance. The war with the Sabines ended in peace when the women, now mothers of Roman children, stood between swords. Thus, unity was born. Romulus created a senate where 100 patricians advised him, and an army that kept enemies at bay. Temples to Jupiter on the Capitoline shone brightly, while Etruscan craftsmen built sewers and roads that connected Rome to the world. This was no mere village, it was a dream, residential publica, a common cause that called for greatness. Kings came and went, each leaving a mark on the clay of Rome's destiny. Numa Pompilius, the second king, was a sage who breathed a soul into Rome. He created a 12-month calendar and raised temples to Janus, the god of beginnings, whose doors closed only in times of peace, a rare event in Rome's history. Tullus Hostilius, by contrast, was a thunderbolt of war. He destroyed Alba Longa, and his duel of the Horatii against the Curiatii became a legend, where 3 brothers fought for the city's fate. Ancus Marcius blended peace and sword, building a port at Ostia that opened Rome to the sea and the Pons Sublicius bridge that joined the Tiber's banks. Tarquinius Priscus, an Etruscan by birth, brought grandeur. The Circus Maximus, where chariots roared, the Temple of Jupiter that gleamed on the hill, and the Cloaca Maxima, which drained water from the streets. Servius Tullius reformed the people, dividing them into classes by wealth, and built a wall encircling the 7 hills. But Tarquinius Superbus, the last king, became a shadow of tyranny. His son Sextus raped Lucretia, and her suicide ignited the spark of revolution. Lucius Junius Brutus, with fury in his heart, expelled the king in 509 BCE, and Rome swore, "No more kings." Thus, the Republic was born, like a phoenix from the ashes of monarchy. 2 consuls, elected by the people, ruled for only a year to prevent tyranny. The Senate, wise elders, held the reins of power, while the Comitia gave voice to the people. But peace was an illusion. Patricians, wealthy aristocrats, clutched power, while plebeians, simple artisans and farmers, demanded justice. In 494 BCE, the plebeians abandoned the city, staging a strike on the Sacred Mount, and their defiance forced the patricians to yield. Thus, tribunes were born, defenders of the people with the power of veto. The 12 Tables, carved in 451 BCE, became the first code of law, but they still oppressed the poor. Rome fought Etruscans, and heroes like Horatius Coccles, who held a bridge alone, or Mucius Scaevola, who burned his hand before the enemy, became symbols of the Roman soul, virtus, the virtue that valued honor and courage. The early republic was a battlefield, not only against enemies, but within itself. Plebeians fought, staging secessions, until in 445 BCE the Lex Canulia allowed marriages between classes. And in 367 BCE the Lex Licinius Sextia opened the consulship to plebeians and limited land ownership. By 287 BCE, plebiscites became law, and Rome learned to balance. But external enemies never slept. In 396 BCE, Rome destroyed the Etruscan city of Veii, but in 390 BCE, Gauls under Brennus sacked the city. Rome rebuilt, raised stronger walls, and forged alliances with the Latins. This struggle forged a republic where all had a voice, but only the strong wielded the sword. BY 264 BC, Rome became the master of Italy. The Latin War, 340 to 338 BCE, shattered the Latin League, and the Samnite Wars, 343 to 290 BCE, tempered the Roman army. The manipular tactic, dividing legions into flexible units, triumphed in the mountains. The Appian Way, the first great road, linked Rome to the south. The Pyrrhic War, 280 to 275 BCE, was a trial. Pyrrhus of Epirus, with his elephants and phalanxes, won battles but lost his army. His Pyrrhic victories became legend, and Rome conquered the south, granting citizenship and building colonies. Italy fell at Rome's feet, but this was only the beginning. War, 264 to 241 BCE, thrust Rome into the sea. Carthage, a maritime power, fought for Sicily. Rome, with no navy, built one from scratch, and at the Battle of Mylae, the Corvus, a boarding bridge, brought victory. Sicily became the first province. The Second Punic War, 218 to 201 BCE, was an epic. Hannibal, the Carthaginian genius, crossed the Alps with elephants and crushed Rome at Cannae. But Rome did not yield. Scipio Africanus, a young general, defeated Hannibal at Zama. The Third War, 149 to 146 BCE, erased Carthage from the earth. Rome gained Spain, Africa, Macedonia, and Greece. But wealth corroded the republic like rust. Land inequality tore society apart. Tiberius Gracchus in 133 BCE proposed reform, redistributing land to the poor. The Senate, terrified, killed him. Gaius Gracchus continued the fight, providing grain to the poor and establishing courts, but he too was slain. The Social Wars, 91 to 88 BCE, forced Rome to grant citizenship to Italians. Gaius Marius reformed the army, making it professional, but this gave generals dangerous power. Sulla, stern and ruthless, became dictator, strengthening the Senate and crushing enemies. Pompey cleared the seas of pirates, and with Crassus, he quelled Spartacus' rebellion. The first triumvirate, Caesar, Pompey, Crassus, united ambitions but cracked like glass. Julius Caesar, Rome's star, conquered Gaul, his legions marching from the Rhone to Britain. In 49 BCE, he crossed the Rubicon, defying the Senate. He defeated Pompey at Pharsalus, became dictator, reformed the calendar, and granted land to veterans. But on the Ides of March, 44 BCE, Brutus and Cassius stabbed him in the Senate, deeming him a tyrant. Chaos engulfed Rome. The second triumvirate, Octavian, Antony, Lepidus, avenged the killers at Philippi. But the alliance fractured. Octavian defeated Antony and Cleopatra at Actium in 31 BCE. In 27 BCE, Octavian became Augustus, the first emperor. His reforms, Praetorian Guard, provinces, Pax Romana, brought peace and grandeur. The Roman Empire was born from the ashes of the Republic. From the she-wolf to Augustus, From huts on the Palatine to marble palaces, Rome was a dream turned reality. Its roads connected continents, its laws shaped civilization, its armies subdued nations. But behind the marble lay blood and tears. Rome is a saga of humanity's thirst for greatness, of heroes and traitors, of gods and mortals. The eternal city stands still, reminding us that even the boldest dreams can change the world. Over the 7 hills, casting golden rays on a city that had become the heartbeat of the world. Rome, born from the milk of a she-wolf and the blood of brothers, had transformed from a cluster of huts into an empire that stretched from the misty shores of Britannia to the sun-scorched sands of Egypt. Augustus, the first emperor, stood at the helm, his shadow long and his vision boundless. But the saga of Rome was far from over. The eternal city, with its marble temples and roaring crowds, was a living tapestry of ambition, betrayal, and glory, a story that would unfold through centuries of triumphs and tragedies, weaving a legacy that would echo through time. Augustus, once the young Octavian, had crafted a new Rome. The year was 27 BCE, and the Republic's ashes still lingered in the air. But he cloaked his power in the guise of tradition. He called himself Princeps, first citizen, not king, for Rome still shuddered at the memory of Tarquin's tyranny. His reforms were a masterstroke. The Praetorian Guard, an elite force, protected the emperor. Provinces were reorganized, governors appointed to ensure loyalty, and the Pax Romana, a golden age of peace, allowed trade and culture to flourish. The Appian Way bustled with merchants, while aqueducts brought water to a city of 1,000,000 souls. Temples to Jupiter and Apollo gleamed, and the poet Virgil sang of Rome's divine destiny in the Aeneid, linking the city to the Trojan hero Aeneas. Yet, beneath the marble, cracks were forming. Augustus' family, the Julio-Claudians, would test the empire's strength with their passions and follies. His successor, Tiberius, stepped into the imperial purple in 14 CE, a reluctant emperor whose grim demeanor hid a sharp mind. A seasoned general, he had conquered in Germania and Illyricum, but the throne weighed heavy. The Senate, once the Republic's heart, was now a shadow, cowed by imperial power. Tiberius retreated to Capri, leaving Rome to the scheming Praetorian prefect Sejanus, whose ambitions nearly toppled the dynasty. Whispers of poison and betrayal filled the air, and when Tiberius died in 37 CE, the city sighed in relief. But relief was fleeting. Caligula, young and charismatic, promised a new dawn, only to descend into madness. He declared himself a god, demanded worship, and drained the treasury on spectacles. His reign ended in blood, stabbed by his own guards in 41 CE. The Praetorians then raised Claudius, a stuttering scholar dismissed by all, to the throne. Yet Claudius proved a surprise. He conquered Britannia, built the port of Ostia, and stabilized the empire. His death in 54 CE, likely by poison from his wife Agrippina, ushered in Nero, a boy emperor whose lyre and theatrics would set Rome ablaze. That Nero's reign began with promise, guided by the philosopher Seneca and the Praetorian Burrus. But his love for art turned to obsession, and his paranoia bred cruelty. In 64 CE, a great fire devoured Rome, and whispers blamed Nero, who sang while the city burned. He scapegoated Christians, igniting persecutions, and built a golden palace amid the ashes. His excesses sparked rebellion, and in 68 CE, abandoned by all, he took his own life, lamenting, "What an artist dies in me." The Julio-Claudian line ended, plunging Rome into chaos. The year of the four emperors, 69 CE, saw Galba, Otho, Vitellius, and Vespasian vie for power in a storm of civil war. Vespasian, a grizzled general, emerged victorious, founding the Flavian dynasty. He rebuilt Rome, raising the Colosseum, a monument to Roman might where gladiators clashed and crowds roared. His sons, Titus and Domitian, followed. But the empire's heart was restless. Titus, beloved for his generosity, faced disasters. Vesuvius erupted in 79 CE, burying Pompey, and another fire scarred Rome. His early death left Domitian, whose paranoia turned him into a tyrant. He demanded to be called Lord and God, and his purges chilled the Senate. Yet he fortified the frontiers, securing the empire's borders along the Rhine and Danube. His assassination in 96 CE ended the Flavians, but Rome's resilience shone. The Senate chose Nerva, an elderly compromiser, who began the era of the five good emperors. Trajan, his successor, was a warrior king, pushing Rome's borders to their zenith. By 117 CE, he had conquered Dacia, its gold filling Rome's coffers, and marched into Mesopotamia, dreaming of Alexander's glory. Hadrian, wiser and more cautious, followed, consolidating the empire. He built his famous wall in Britannia, a stone line against the wild north, and adorned Rome with the Pantheon, its dome a marvel of engineering. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, ruled with stoic wisdom, writing his meditations amid wars with Germanic tribes. But his son Commodus, vain and unstable, unraveled the Golden Age, murdered in 192 CE, plunging Rome into another civil war. The Severan dynasty rose from the chaos, led by Septimius Severus, a fierce African general who declared, "Enrich the soldiers, scorn all else." He strengthened the army. But his successors, Caracalla, Elagabalus, Severus Alexander, faced mounting crises. Caracalla granted citizenship to all free men in 212 CE, a bold move to unify the empire, but economic woes and border threats grew. By the 3rd century, Rome teetered. The crisis of the 3rd century, 235 to 284 CE, saw emperors rise and fall like leaves in a storm. Barbarian invasions, economic collapse, and plague battered the empire. Yet heroes emerged. Aurelian reunited a fractured Rome, defeating the Palmyrene Queen Zenobia and restoring the East. His walls still stand around Rome, a testament to his resolve. Diocletian, in 284 CE, saved the empire by dividing it into the Tetrarchy, for rulers sharing power. He reformed the army, economy, and administration, but his persecution of Christians sowed seeds of division. Constantine the Great, rising in 306 CE, changed Rome forever. His vision of a cross in the sky at the Battle of Milvian Bridge in 312 CE led him to embrace Christianity, legalizing it with the Edict of Milan. He founded Constantinople, a new Rome in the east, shifting the empire's center. By his death in 337 CE, Rome was Christian, its pagan roots fading. But the empire groaned under its own weight. The West crumbled as barbarians, Goths, Vandals, Huns, pressed in. In 410 CE, Alaric's Visigoths sacked Rome, a shock to the world. The last Western emperor, Romulus Augustulus, was deposed in 476 CE, a date often marking the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Yet the Eastern Empire, Byzantium, carried Rome's flame for another 1,000 years. Rome's saga is a tapestry of human dreams and flaws. From Romulus' first furrow to Constantine's cross, it was a city of contradictions, brutal yet cultured, chaotic yet enduring. Its roads carried legions and ideas, its laws shaped nations, its stories inspired poets. The Colosseum's roars, the Senate's debates, the emperor's triumphs and follies, all wove a legacy that lives in our courts, languages, and dreams. Rome was not just a city. It was an idea, a fire that burned through centuries, proving that even mortals can touch eternity. The city stood defiant, its 7 hills bathed in the amber glow of twilight, whispering tales of gods, heroes, and mortals who dared to dream beyond the horizon. Rome, born from a she-wolf's milk and a brother's blood, had grown from a humble village into an empire that clasped the world in its iron embrace. Augustus had forged it, Constantine had reshaped it, but the saga of Rome was far from its final chapter. As the Western Empire crumbled under the weight of invasions and its own ambitions, the Eastern Empire, Byzantium, carried the torch, weaving a new tapestry of triumphs, intrigues, and transformations. This is the story of Rome's enduring legacy, a tale of emperors and exiles, of faith and fire, of a city that refused to fade into the shadows of history. The year was 476 CE, and the West mourned. Romulus Augustulus, a boy emperor whose name echoed the city's mythical founder, was deposed by the barbarian chieftain Odoacer. The imperial insignia were sent to Constantinople, signaling the end of the Western Roman Empire. Yet Rome's heart still beat in the east, where Constantinople, the new Rome, rose like a phoenix on the Bosporus. Founded by Constantine the Great, this city of golden domes and bustling markets became the guardian of Rome's legacy. Its walls, thicker than any before, defied invaders, and its emperors, cloaked in Roman law and Christian zeal, claimed the mantle of Caesar. The Eastern Roman Empire, soon called Byzantium, was no mere shadow. It was Rome reborn, a beacon of civilization in a world unraveling. Emperor Zeno ruled in 476 CE, a man caught in a storm of rebellion and intrigue. His reign was turbulent, marked by rival claimants and barbarian pressures, but he laid the groundwork for stability. His successor, Anastasius, proved a master of finance, reforming the empire's economy with a new gold coin, the solidus, that became the envy of the world. Taxes were streamlined, corruption curbed, and the treasury swelled. Anastasius built fortifications along the Danube, holding back the tides of Goths and Huns. Yet his religious policies, favoring Monophysitism, a belief that Christ had one divine nature, sparked riots in Constantinople, where the Orthodox faithful clashed in the streets. The empire's soul was torn between faith and power, a tension that would define Byzantium's path. Then came Justinian, the emperor who dreamed of restoring Rome's ancient glory. Ascending in 527 CE, he was a man of boundless ambition, his eyes fixed on the west. Born a peasant in Illyricum, Justinian rose through intellect and will, guided by his fierce wife, Theodora, a former actress whose courage matched her husband's vision. Together, they reshaped the empire. Justinian's general, Belisarius, was a military genius, sweeping through North Africa to reclaim it from the Vandals in 533 CE. Sicily, Italy, and Rome itself fell back under imperial control, wrested from the Ostrogoths in brutal campaigns. The Eternal City, scarred by centuries, once again flew the eagle standard. Justinian's dream of Renovatio Imperii, the restoration of the empire, seemed within reach. But glory came at a cost. Wars drained the treasury, and the plague of 541 CE, a merciless scourge, killed millions, weakening the empire's heart. Justinian's legacy was not only in conquest, but in law. His Corpus Juris Civilis, a monumental codification of Roman law, became the bedrock of justice, influencing legal systems for centuries. From marriage contracts to property disputes, it preserved Rome's genius for order. He also transformed Constantinople with the Hagia Sophia, its dome a marvel that seemed to float between heaven and earth. Theodora, his partner in power, championed the poor and women, defying assassins and rebels with a fire that burned brighter than any crown. Yet Justinian's reign was not without shadows. Religious disputes flared as he tried to reconcile Orthodox and Monophysite Christians, only to deepen divisions. The Nika riots of 532 CE nearly toppled him, when chariot racing fans turned into a mob, burning half the city. Theodora's resolve, the purple makes a fine shroud, kept Justinian on the throne, but the scars lingered. After Justinian's death in 565 CE, the empire faltered. His successors, like Justin II and Maurice, faced relentless invasions. The Lombards seized much of Italy, while the Persians threatened the east. Maurice, a capable general, won victories but fell to a mutiny in 602 CE, ushering in chaos. Phocas, a brutal usurper, took the throne, only to be overthrown by Heraclius in 610 CE. Heraclius faced an empire on the brink. The Persians sacked Jerusalem, stealing the true cross, and the Avars and Slavs besieged Constantinople. Yet Heraclius, with near-mythic courage, turned the tide. He sailed to Persia, defeating King Khosrow II and reclaiming the cross in 630 CE. But victory was fleeting. A new force, Islam, rose from Arabia, its armies sweeping through Syria, Egypt, and North Africa. By 641 CE, when Heraclius died, the empire had lost its richest provinces. Constantinople stood firm, its walls and Greek fire, a flaming weapon that burned on water, repelling Arab sieges. The empire shrank but endured. The Isaurian dynasty, beginning with Leo III in 717 CE, brought stability. Leo's iconoclastic policies, banning religious images, sparked fury but strengthened the state. His son, Constantine V, crushed rebellions and fortified the empire against Arabs and Bulgars. By the 8th century, Byzantium was a Christian fortress, its culture blending Roman law, Greek philosophy, and Orthodox faith. The emperor was God's viceroy, crowned in the Hagia Sophia, while the bureaucracy, inherited from Rome, managed a complex empire. Trade flourished, with silk and spices flowing through Constantinople, the crossroads of Europe and Asia. The city's hippodrome echoed with chariot races, and its churches glowed with mosaics, preserving Rome's artistic soul. The Macedonian dynasty, starting in 867 CE with Basil I, marked a golden age. Basil, a peasant turned emperor, murdered his way to the throne but ruled with wisdom. His successors, like Leo VI the Wise and Constantine VII, fostered learning, compiling encyclopedias and histories. The empire reclaimed Crete and Cyprus, while generals like Nikephoros Phocas and John Tzimiskes pushed back the Arabs, recapturing Antioch. Basil II, the Bulgar slayer, reigned from 976 to 1025 CE, crushing Bulgaria in a campaign so fierce he blinded 15,000 prisoners. His reign saw Byzantium at its peak, its armies unmatched, its treasury full. But Basil's death left no heir, and the empire slid into decline. Weak emperors and noble feuds weakened the state, while new threats loomed. The Normans in Italy and the Seljuk Turks in the east. The First Crusade, called in 1095 CE by Pope Urban II, brought Latin Christians to Byzantium's aid, but also tension. Emperor Alexios I Komnenos, a cunning diplomat, used the Crusaders to reclaim lands but distrusted their motives. The Crusades strengthened Byzantium briefly, but the Fourth Crusade in 1204 CE was a catastrophe. Western Knights, meant to fight Muslims, sacked Constantinople, looting its treasures and carving up the empire. The Latin Empire ruled briefly, but the Byzantines, led by Michael VIII Palaiologos, retook the city in 1261 CE. The empire was a shadow of its former self, bled dry by war and betrayal. Yet Byzantium endured, a flickering flame of Rome's legacy. Its scholars preserved ancient texts, from Plato to Homer, passing them to the Renaissance. Its art, with golden mosaics and solemn icons, inspired generations. The empire's laws and bureaucracy shaped medieval Europe, while its solidus stabilized trade. As the Ottoman Turks closed in, Constantine XI, the last emperor, stood on Constantinople's walls in 1453 CE. On May 29th, the city fell to Mehmed the Conqueror, and Constantine died fighting. His name a final echo of Rome's first Christian emperor. The Eastern Empire was gone, but its spirit lived on. In the Orthodox Church, in the laws of nations, in the dreams of those who look to Rome for inspiration, to Rome's saga is a river that never stops flowing. From Romulus to Constantine XI, from the Tiber to the Bosporus, it was a story of human passion and perseverance. The eternal city, whether in marble or memory, taught the world to build, to govern, to dream. Its roads carried armies and ideas. Its churches cradled faith. Its stories fueled revolutions. Rome was not just an empire. It was a spark that lit the world, proving that even in the darkest times, the human spirit can forge an eternal legacy.